first step, if you want to become a trainer, it's the first step to understand how to evaluate a sound movement mechanics. All this time when we do workout, I'm looking at something, I'm like trying to find whether the movement mechanics is sound or what we can improve on. That's the first job of the coach, be able to see a movement and say, okay, this is right or there is something I can improve. How do you do that? There are many movements, right? There are like 1,000 movements. You cannot remember all the movements, how to perform it correctly. So what we have is called a theme or a framework. From engineering mindset, what I always look at is some kind of framework I can operate with, some kind of guideline. And that's what I'm going to go over today. This is called movement theme. And it's nothing but a framework for a sound movement mechanics. How do you know that the movement is sound or is good or bad? First thing you're evaluating is it's safe. Second thing, if once you're pretty sure that it's safe, then you want to go on the efficiency. It should be efficient to move. And the third thing is if you're moving efficiently, moving safely, and third thing you want to focus on is how can you get a movement advantage? Advantage to move faster on that movement, to produce more power out, right? That's a mechanical advantage you want to work on. So that is the purpose of this framework, what we're going to discuss. So first one is called midline stabilization. In short form, we call it MS. What is midline stabilization? Now, we are designed, the whole idea of midline stabilization is to stabilize your trunk. Now, what is trunk? Let's talk about that first. So if I make a stick figure, we call this stick figure, where you have a head, then you have a spine, and then you have a hips, and then you have your legs all the way to ground. There is knee. So when we talk about midline, we are talking about this section. That's called midline. I'm looking at this portion, the spine and a joint, it's wedded to the hips. That's what we're talking about. And that's what we want to stabilize as a midline. There's a stable, neutral spine, we call it, a nice S curvature. If it is flexed, just flex your back. Keep going down now. Look at this. Keep going, nice and relaxed. This is flexion of the spine. See that? Now, stand up. Now let's do a hyperextension where you're extended back. That's it. Hold that. And it's extended towards the back side. It's a hyperextension. And relax. You don't want both of them. You want to see a stable, nice spine during the execution. Take a sip. What we are looking for is during the execution means a setup position when you start a movement. Like let's take an example of deadlift, right? A setup position is the bottom of the deadlift. Start position, you want spine to be stable, neutral. During the execution, you want spine to be stable and neutral. During the reset or regaining the setup position, you want a spine stable to neutral. Make sense? That's the fundamental theme you will see across me. Very important concept. First thing we focus on, right? Second one, posterior chain engagement. Anatomical word, posterior chain. It's nothing but back of your body. This is called anterior, front of your body. This is called posterior, back of your body. Anterior chain is from here to all the muscle group in front. Posterior chain is starting from the shoulder, all the muscle of the back, right? Your back muscle, your rectus, your hips, your glutes, hamstrings, they all include and contribute towards the posterior chain. And what we want to see is most of the time, and we want this to be engaged all the time actually when you're doing movement. Posterior chain engagement allows you to stay on the weight on the heels and keep the load close to frontal plane. You know what it means? That means third one I'm going to talk about balance in frontal plane. When you're moving a load, you want to move the load as close as possible to the frontal plane. Now, what is a frontal plane? If I take Sam again, Sam, come over here. Let's just talk about what is frontal plane. Stand this way. If I divide him, slice him in half right here, that's his frontal plane. You want object really close to the frontal plane when he's executing any movement. Now, when I say any movement, it can be overhead movement. He's pressing. I want that load to stay really close to frontal plane when he's pressing. It can be a deadlift. When he's starting from the ground, I want the bar, the load, stay very close to the frontal plane. And that is needed to gain some, relax for a second, gain the efficiency when you're executing the movement. And most of the time you can do posterior chain engagement by engaging all the muscle of the back and staying on the heels. And that allows you to get the load close to the frontal plane. Makes sense? When you're doing deadlift. That's why when you're doing deadlift, I want bar not here, but close to the front loop. When doing press, I don't want bar to travel around the face. I want to travel a straight line. When you press end, I don't want bar to be back here behind the frontal plane. I want it on the frontal plane. When I'm doing overhead squat, I want bar overhead position on the frontal plane, not behind or not in the front. Why? Because that is going to be most efficient, safe, and you will have a mechanical advantage, highest. Any other way you try to move it, you probably will to move it, but it's not going to be as safe you're thinking, and chance of injury is higher. And you're working way harder to do that work than somebody else who is keeping it in front of you. Make sense? So it's not that you don't have options, like you're looking at how to keep it closer and how to keep the posterior chin engaged. Now, why do I want a posterior? I didn't talk about much here. Why do I want a posterior chin engagement in all the movements? What is the reason for that? The biggest muscle in your body is in your back. Hamstrings, glutes, back erectors for back. These are the biggest muscle in your body. If you take example of a battery, the major of your energy is coming from the back. So 80% of your battery of the car is back muscle, 20% front. So if you're not utilizing your posterior chin, you're not moving in an efficient way, or you not have advantage. It's not necessarily that you're not moving safely by being on the toes, right? It's okay to be on that once in a while if you're trying to regain the control, but you probably burning way more energy from the front side, and you will probably take faster rest. You're going to be stopping for a rest very quickly because you're just not using your bigger batteries. They are there to help you and you're not using them. Biggest muscle group in the body is hamstring and glutes, this area, right? If you're doing deadlift and not using this muscle, you are losing all advantage. Make sense? So that's what I'm looking at. When I'm doing fix with the people, I am working on fixing the problems. I start with safety first, and then immediately I move to this part, efficiency and advantage. How do I get them moving efficiently? How do I give them advantage now? Sounds good? Those are top three. Let's go to the next one. This is now we're going to talk about something which you will see in a dynamic movement, and it's called core to extremity concept. And what it means is the biggest muscle in your body should do the work first, create the most amount of the power they need with the less amount of momentum. And then they should transfer the energy to the extreme part of your body. So when I say biggest muscle, I'll start with the core is biggest, core, hips, this portion is the biggest muscle driving the energy. And then extreme of my body is my finger. So if I have to throw a ball, an example of cricket, if I'm throwing the ball, I'll always start with opening the hips, then transfer that power to the shoulder, transfer that to the elbows, and then at the finger I flick with or give them a direction with the speed where it needs to go. If you try to throw without using this, just the hands, it will not have that much of velocity or speed as it can be because you did not provide the power energy needed to. And you will overuse the smaller muscles, right? Because you're repeatedly doing the work without utilizing the big muscle. Makes sense? Very important concept in any functional movement, what we do here. Another example will be mostly we see this in a dynamic movement. Push press, push jerk, cleans, sumo deadlift, high pull, where you have a more component, a moving component, you will see this applying. This gives you a advantage. This gives you efficiency. More example of this is clean. When you're doing a clean, you want hips to work first and then the elbow. Sometimes you'll see people who start to pull early and then jump, right? They lose the advantage right there. Another example will be on the push press. You're starting the bar on the shoulder, you dip, and you start pressing before you use the hips. And then you finish the hips and you lock it. You didn't use your power from the hips to drive the load and get that advantage you can to get the load over at position. Makes sense? Most of the dynamic movement, you look for this. Again, this is mostly related to efficiency and advantage, not much on the safety side, because safety, if you keep doing it, you overuse the muscle, and the safety issue comes and then you get injured, right? If I keep throwing the ball with my just shoulder and hands, eventually my shoulder is going to give up. So that's the idea. So these are the top four. Let's go to the fifth one. And fifth one is nothing but range of motion. And what is range of motion? It's nothing but achieving the full end range of motion allowed by your joint. So any given position, what is the end range of motion for me pressing overhead? My joints are allowed to extend my shoulder, extend my elbows, and then lock my hands overhead. That's my end range of motion. If I'm squatting down, sitting below parallel, that's where my end range of motion ends, right? I'm below parallel with my hips crease below the knee. That's where my end range of motion. That's where I want to. That's what my joints allow me to do. Somebody doing just a half squat, their joints are capable of going more, but they're not doing it. What you want to make sure that you have a range of motion in all the movements, any functional movement. Now, this is really, really important for all of these three components. First of all, safety and how it improves your safety. If I'm doing a range of motion partial all the time, and the life demands a full range of motion someday, which I have not practiced, I have a high risk and potential of being injured. What it means is if you squat half all the time, let's say this way, and then someday you have to go all the way down and then pick up your car or your sofa from here, you might injure yourself because body is not used to that range of motion. As a coach, is our job, our responsibility is to, first thing is to find out whether the athlete is capable of going to that range of motion without any external help. If not, how do I get there? And that's the training program. Make sense? So if you're not able to, for you, Devang, and know that your range of motion for the overhead position was this. What I did is like, keep working on finding where you can get there and lock the elbows, right? Reason being is because your health of joints are dependent on this. Your health of joints are not as good as they can be without having the range of motion they're allowed to do on a daily basis. If I never squat down full, which I'm supposed to do as a human being, sitting down and standing up, if I never do it, they will not be useful after some time. When you're in the gym, your job is to find if they can go into that range of motion. If cannot, what is the reason? And then how to get there. So these are 5. You will actually go over this one during your level 2. And that will be a good idea. Next couple are, you will not do this during your level 1 certificates, but you will see this in level 2. And it's the next highest importance, and it's called hip function. HF actually, I should just write HF. Now, what is hip function? Hip is supposed to close and open and do that thing under speed. Hip function, you will see a problem with people in that they are not completely opening the hips, such as when you're doing jerk. You just didn't open the hips, you just landed, or you didn't use the power of your hips to drive this, get the mechanical advantage of Shati, or you never close the hips. So that happens when you do a clean. You brought the clean and then you just go on the knees and then never use the hips to absorb the power. They are a big muscle group, right? They're designed to absorb your power and force. They will only when you flex them and then absorb that, right? So those are the biggest issue you will see on the movement, is people not using the hips effectively. So mostly this is related to efficiency and advantage. Because you don't use hips effectively, the other muscle group have to dominate, such as knee, right? If you catch the bar in a muted hip position, your knee is working harder. And that's where the safety comes into, and overuse of that knee causes to get the knee problems in the long term. So it's not related directly safety on the day one, but you want to make sure that that is working effectively, it is functioning effectively, so that they are safe in the long run. One of the third reason I see on the hip, first is not closing it, second is not opening it, right? Those are very common, easy to watch. The other issue I see is not be able to do that in the speed. That means opening and closing back with a full speed. That's like jumping on the boxes. So that is the function you want. You want to have all three functions. Them able to open it, them able to close it, and then they able to do it under the speed. Easy way to start doing that is a box jumps, small heights, very small heights, jump and then land will allow hips to open and close. So if you want to utilize athlete's full potential, any athletes, when I talk about athlete, I'm talking about a sport athlete in the sport of any field sport, any wherever they have to use the full body, right? Fitness is important. Hip function is what gonna drive or give them, bring the best potential out of them. So any athlete's potential, just start here, hip function. Get the hip function in the right place, and then you will see their sport improving up.